pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, to a regular session of City Council, Goldendale City Council, for November 16th, 2020. We need to have a roll call. Are you prepared for that, or do you need?
Just a minute. Why isn't it going to record?
Well, I can go ahead and call it if you want.
It's not going to record for me. Sorry. It's not going to record. Guess I'll have to take the minutes. Well, it's open. It's not recording. I'll just have to take the minutes. It's not going to record. Okay, Julie?
I'm here.
Lauren?
I'm here.
Kevin?
Here.
Shannon?
Here.
Andy?
Here.
Mylan?
Here.
And Gilberto's not.
He's not here, okay. And we have full council with the exception of Filberto Ontiveros. Do I have a motion to excuse Filberto? He's had a death in his family.
This is Julie. I'll make that motion. This is Andy. I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to excuse Filberto Ontiveros from attending this council session. Thank you. We have a public hearing, two public hearings tonight. The first is on revenue sources for the 2021 budget. Yeah. And this has to do with something that we're allowed to do annually if agreed by the City Council, for the City of Goldendale to have an increase in the regular property tax levy to be increased by 1%. This will be collected for the year 2021. The dollar amount of the increase over the actual levy amount from the previous year shall be $9,355.54, which is a percentage increase of 1% from the previous year. This increase is exclusive of additional revenues resulting from new construction, improvements of property, newly constructed wind turbines, or any increase in value of state assessed property, any annexations that have occurred and refunds made. Do we have comments or questions about this 1% increase in our regular property tax levy? Hearing none, we'll go on to the second item. second public hearing, do I close it?
Yeah, you have to close it.
Okay. Not hearing further comments, we will close the first public hearing for revenue sources for the 2021 budget. The second preliminary budget, the second public hearing is on the preliminary budget, and in that, the approach that's been taken was to provide notice of capital outlays that are expected during 2021. And this included money that's been set aside for in the city's street budget for matching funds for a possible Transportation Improvement Board, TIB, project on buyers in the amount of $60,000. In addition, there is a capital outlay reservation for 2 projects in water sewer. One to replace the water line on Byers Street, and the second to replace the sewer line between Main and Court and Chatfield to Golden in the amount of $250,000. The Budget Committee has met to discuss these proposals and has given its recommendation or approval as presented by our City Administrator, Larry Bellamy. Are there questions or comments from the council or from the public?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and make a comment. Byers Street actually touches my property, so any vote on that, I'm going to have to abstain from.
Because I couldn't record, those aren't working. Let's see if I
That's
can.
fine.
So what did,
Kevin's gonna abstain.
okay, that's fine, Kevin. Any other comments or any other questions?
I'll make a comment since we're at this point. On the preliminary budget, we still have some work to do on that. We will know by this Friday, is my understanding, that whether or not the city has received a TIB award for Byers Street. And in light of that, I thought it would be best to go ahead and have a budget committee meeting on 11/23, which is next Monday at 6 p.m. So I just want to remind the council, budget committee, that we are going to meet on the 23rd at 6 o'clock.
Are there any other comments or questions?
My computer went black.
If not, having heard no further
My
comments,
computer went black.
we will close this public hearing. What is it?
I gotta open it.
Is there
up.
anybody,
They're not on. I think they went. Don't know what happened.
We're having technical difficulties, folks.
They can't hear you. They're not hooked up.
Oh my. I didn't bring my deck of cards so I could do.
And I forgot my kazoo.
I hope I can restart the meeting. Does everybody have to call in again? Is everybody still there? Maybe I needed to join meeting.
You want them to recall back in?
Yeah, it looks like they're all going away. There's some to admit again. Can you hear me? Yes. How come I can't hear them?
Andy says he's in the waiting room.
I've got everybody in. I don't see him. I know a computer virus here.
Gotta set all it up before they get here?
No, we were in the middle of a meeting.
Appreciate you helping.
It says we're all in the meeting room. We're all waiting in the Zoom meeting.
Oh, great. I'm waiting on you.
Hi, Justin. Okay, we're not in it, but all of them are in it. Connie's computer that takes the minutes and hosts the meeting, and it went black. So, okay, well, we've got somebody here working on it. I don't know. Like restarting it.
I just can't get the sound on.
Well, the thing is, we gotta have it recorded. You could,
I'm recording on my phone.
okay. She's recording on her phone. You want him to just hook it up?
Look what up.
The Zoom meeting.
How can you do that?
Okay. You mean the log into the Zoom meeting? It's the same one that we have for the agenda, right?
Yeah, lost all your hardware. I can't turn it off.
Are we gonna all have to go in Larry's office?
Can I, we're gonna have to restart, can I restart it?
Yeah, it restarted by itself because it went black.
I'm gonna end the meeting,
Huh?
I have to end the meeting now.
That's all right, I can rejoin it.
Okay. Yeah, I lost your sound device. It's totally gone.
Great.
There's no password.
I don't know why it's so loud in the room when you did a meeting last time, because my room's right there.
I could hear you talking in there.
Connie, who is this gentleman?
Me,
Yes, you.
Alan Byers.
Okay.
It's my son. Oh, right there.
Capitals, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll take the camera for you and just go back to the seal.
You guys have any?
I just restarted to see if I can get the audio device back. Looks like it's still off, so. Yeah, I lost all audio. Audio is gone.
So what did Justin want to do?
Here, Lee, you talk to him.
Hey, Justin. What did you want to do? Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just totally lost our audio device on our system.
Can you find what? Here, talk to Justin.
What? I don't know anything about your computer.
He's asking about this stuff.
What's up, Justin? Hello? I'm sitting at our computer. What you need, bud? Yeah, this has no audio, so it lost her audio device.
So how does he get in to be the host?
Let me find out. Okay, so it's
Yep, my email.
yeah, it's Connie's email. And do you know the full email on that one? Okay. You just need your password in, and you can start it.
Is it the password for my C-Buyers email account?
No, it's gonna be the one for Zoom, when you set up with Zoom. Do you remember it? You ever written it down?
No, they didn't tell me I needed I had a password.
She doesn't know the password for it.
Mine were getting put back together,
Okay,
everything went out.
yeah, right, yeah,
So
no,
we'll-
I even got cut off, I mean,
Yeah, no, it was,
My computer went
computer.
black.
what's that?
My computer went black.
Oh. Well, you even cut me off. I'll try to call in again.
Yeah. Here, I'll give you Vector. He's gonna have to send an email out.
Say what you just said to him. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going there now.
Okay, will everybody else have to call in like a position again, or can you hook them up there? Okay. Okay. So do you need me to follow Connie, or is Connie gonna? Works great when it works.
I'll leave when they get going.
sure.
It's always something with computers.
It always is, and particularly when you start off with Zoom and it's a rough start.
Well, this isn't actually Zoom problem. It lost her whole entire audio device in her laptop. I mean, the Windows says it's not there. There's just no audio.
It's going.
Yeah.
Well, we're commuting, the council members, we're commuting back and forth to each other.
Yeah, it's just that we can't hear anything through here.
Okay, all right, yeah, we're having conversations, you know, going on between the council members.
We'll take the agenda and get going.
Yeah, right. And somebody made a comment, well, maybe we can get this meeting going a little faster.
Bypass stuff without the main people.
Yeah,
Get her done.
Yeah.
Well, if you're all gonna talk between yourselves, then I don't need to be here.
Thanks, Bob.
I don't know what you're gonna do because it lost its audio. It's enabled in the main hardware.
That's okay.
It's not
I'll
safe.
call Radcom tomorrow.
I don't wanna take it all down and mess with it right now.
No, thanks. So how am I gonna record it now?
Is everybody?
You can
need to
put Zoom on your
recall?
phone and record it. But I think he's logged into your Zoom, so you can't log into Zoom on there.
Okay.
See, I was recording it with my phone, so maybe Larry can put his on speaker or something and I can record it. Oh, he's gonna use that one? Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by
Yeah.
pound.
Yeah, this is my line, Justin, I'm on, I can hear you.
ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. You are in the meeting now. There are 6 participants in the meeting. You have been added to the waiting room. You cannot talk or listen until the host admits you to the meeting.
All here.
This is Larry at City Hall.
Good.
Okay, Mike, you're gonna have to come over here, if you don't mind.
I don't want
What are you guys gonna do?
Another roll call real quick. See what we got.
Yes, we can. Connie, why don't you grab a chair and sit opposite the mayor and redo the roll call.
We got some new people coming in here. Hey, new people.
Julie,
I'm here.
Lauren,
Lauren just messaged me. I'll get him in here in just a minute.
okay, that was Kevin. Shannon? Shannon?
Do you have their names?
Andy? We still don't have Shannon and Andy.
Can one of you guys on your end call them separately?
Yeah, Larry's
Let them know we
doing,
got this.
yeah, Larry's calling them.
Okay, good.
Andy, we're hooked up through Justin's computer, so can you call him? Okay, thanks. Okay, Andy, you said Shannon?
Shannon.
Thanks. That's your son.
We got someone new here.
Is Lauren on there yet?
I'm here.
Okay. Is Andy there?
No, we're still missing Andy and
Shannon.
Shannon, I guess. I'll let you know when I when someone's trying to enter.
Shannon, can you call back in again? Justin's hosting the meeting now.
Oh, we got someone coming in right now.
All right, thanks.
Hey, welcome. This is Andy, I'm back. Hey.
Still looking for Shannon.
All right, letting them in now. Shannon? Shannon, is that you? Yeah, I'm here. Okay, great. All right, I think we got everybody back on.
Do we have Roger on the line?
Fantastic.
Was Roger ever on the line?
I don't
Yep.
think he was.
Well, originally he was.
Roger's back in, he's recording.
Oh, good,
I'm
okay.
here.
Okay, let's redo the roll call then, make sure everybody's here.
I just did,
You're good?
yeah, I did them until I was waiting for Andy and Shannon.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and
Go to,
do a summary and get us to where we need to be. For anybody that's wasn't here for all the things that we had to go through to get this meeting on the road, we've had the Pledge of Allegiance, we've had the roll call, and all city councilmen are on the line with the exception of Filberto Monteveros, and he was excused. We're waiting now for a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda. Do we have that?
Did we close the preliminary budget?
Pardon me?
yes.
Yes, we closed each one.
Okay.
I move to approve the agenda.
Any,
Second, I didn't have my speaker on.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda and consent agenda for tonight's meeting, November 16, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll go on now to department reports. Chief Hunziker is here in the room. Chief?
Getting that time of year, we're starting to see increase in domestic violence, disturbance calls. Commonly when we're going into the holidays, we see that. It's not a severe spike, but we are getting more and more. You know, this continuation probably with the COVID restrictions, and, you know, and the weather on top of everything. Officers recently went through firearms and first aid recertifications with absolutely no problems. The Veterans Day Parade went very well, had no incidents. We do have civil service testing coming up on December 12th to fill the one position that's opened up at the police department. And we even have a lateral of 9 years from the state of Oregon showing interest in wanting to come to our community. Other than that, things are going okay, and we've had no major incidents.
Thank you, Chief. I think Fire Chief Noah Hom, I don't believe he's on the line, but he reported today in the department head meeting that things have been fairly quiet for the fire department, only with issues with a fire alarm at the Ponderosa Hotel that keeps sending out false alarms. But we're working on a solution to stop that. But otherwise, he said it was pretty routine for the fire department. We'll go on now to council business, and Larry will give us the first item, notice of award for the nuisance abatement. Larry?
Okay, we've been dealing with a nuisance abatement situation at 904 South Grand Street here, right near the City Hall. And we finally were able to get things resolved with all the legal issues, and we have issued, the court has issued a writ of abatement, and we have a good bid to go in and abate the nuisance, which is to tear the entire structure, removal of the entire structure. And the sealed bid amount was $13,437.50, which includes sales tax. And the work that they're gonna do is to demolish, remove, and dispose of the residential dwelling. It's been abandoned for many, many years, and it's severe amount of mold is occurring inside the manufactured home. And we strongly recommend proceeding with this bid award. Justin, do you want to add anything to this?
No, I think you covered it. I think it's pretty straightforward, and, it's just kind of culmination of a very long code enforcement process, and glad they were able to get to that point.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to...
We're looking now for a motion on the notice of award for the nuisance abatement. Do we have a motion?
I move to authorize the mayor to execute an abatement service agreement with Greens Trees tree removal for nuisance abatement service in the amount not to exceed $13,437.50.
Do we have a second for? It's been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to execute an abatement service agreement with Greens Tree Removal for nuisance abatement services in the amount not to exceed $13,437.50. Are there comments or questions from the council?
How many bids were received for that bid process?
I believe it was 2, right, Justin?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe it was 2, and I think the other one was like $30,000.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was out of control. That other one.
Any other questions or comments? If not, it's been moved and seconded to approve this notice of abatement, notice of award for a nuisance abatement. Do we have a second?
We had a second.
We have,
I'll second it.
We had Shannon and Andy.
okay. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next is under council business is the response to Craig Novitz's request.
Okay, at the last council meeting, we had a citizen, Craig Novitz, come attend the council meeting and was concerned about an asbestos pipe removal issue at his residence. And we suggested that we get some more information on it and review the situation and try to come up with some more information for the council upon which you can make a recommendation. So in light of that, we asked Justin to review the matter, and we also asked through WCIA, which is Washington City's Insurance Authority, they helped us with analyzing the issues. And Justin Lee is going to now make a short presentation, a summary of what he found, and then we can open it up for options to resolve the matter.
Justin, it's yours.
Thanks, Larry. And do we have Quinn on the line? Yeah, you may come on the line. Hey, Quinn, thanks. All right. So, pursuant to the direction of council, I reached out to Mr. Novix initially to discuss the possibility of working with him to get the water pipe off his property. At the same time, in an effort to mitigate risk, I began to investigate the city's potential liability in the matter. In researching the applicable law, it started to become apparent that Mr. Novix may have undertaken certain actions in a manner that was improper and perhaps even unlawful. Meanwhile, to better understand how our insurance policy might cover the underlying situation or a potential claim that could arise now or in the future, like Larry said, we reached out to WCIA our insurance provider, seeking what's called pre-claim coverage. And as part of that process, WCIA referred us to an attorney, our city attorney, in fact, Quinn Plant is on the line. And Quinn provided additional insight into the matter and assisted in the review of a memorandum, which was not ready when we assembled the council packet, but which I have shared with council, and I can make that memo available to anyone who requests it. The memo, which is primarily legal in nature, points out the ways in which many of the liabilities stemming from the underlying matter might actually be attributable to Mr. Novak, who, by his own admission to me, knowingly and intentionally removed the city's water pipe without the city's approval. So to the extent that that's true, the memo points out the following three possible claims that arise from the facts at hand. The first one is that Mr. Novak may be liable to the city for his trespass upon his water line, as well as his theft and destruction of that water line, which is municipal property. Number two, that Mr. Novak and his excavation contractor may have violated a number of asbestos removal laws. And number three, that the storage of the pipe on Mr. Novak's property likely constitutes a nuisance. So, to the extent that my findings are mainly concerned with litigation, it's not out of a sense of litigiousness, nor does it in any way stem from the desire to retaliate against Mr. Novak. I want to be absolutely clear about this. The legal conclusions I've relayed are, in my opinion, the natural result of researching the matter, and which, by its very nature, poses a great deal of risk to both the city and to the public. So I hope that my research can be helpful to the council in understanding the legal landscape surrounding their decision-making process. So please let me know if Quinn or myself can answer any other questions on that. Thank you.
Council, do we have further comments or questions?
Yeah, this is Shannon. So, I already kind of talked to Justin about this, but at the same time, Mr. Norwood came to Carl and spoke with Carl, and in the same process, basically telling him what was happening, and then submitted in to get the proper permit to do what he was doing as far as putting his house there. And we approved that by permitting it. So, I talked to Carl. His recollection was that the conversation revolved around Mr. Novak's requesting that the city would remove the pipe, and Carl said that we would not. That being said, none of the plans submitted discuss the removal of a pipe, nor did the plans permit the removal of the pipe. So I don't think that the issuance of the building permit shifts the liability away from Mr. Novak's onto the city. Right.
Our review of the building permit should have covered the easement location and the house location. It should have been reviewed with sufficient detail to know that there wasn't an issue. Additionally, I'm certain that any excavating contractor would call for a locate, and I would like to know whether or not the city's water line was located for the landowner and the contractor.
I will answer that. No, but based on the email I received yesterday, no, they did not locate it, and they forgot that it was there. I'll admit that, yeah. Well, first off, right, if you call 811, no one's going to come out and mark that easement. But Mr. Novak knew it was there. He knew about it before he bought the property. He knew about it before he submitted his building plans. And so while the city missed it, it still doesn't shift the liability onto the city.
So what I'm saying
I'm not gonna go too far in depth in that. But I did not want this escalated. I did not want this to just keep going on and on. And I called the dump today, and you know what they said it would cost for them to accept the asbestos pipe? $200. $200. We're not talking about a phenomenal amount of funds here. We're talking about something that could have been fixed 14 months ago. Meanwhile, we have asbestos pipe sitting above ground. And I just worry that we're not working harder or smarter, we're working harder. We're spending more money than we need to spend. And the last thing I think we need to do is walk into court and have a judge and have a lawyer walk into court on the first day and say, they gave them a building permit on a hazardous waste site they did not know was there.
This is Lauren. Yeah, I think we spent far more than $200 in staff time and consulting attorneys, and this could have been resolved quite easily. I think we should work with our citizens in a much better, more productive manner and lower the cost of these sorts of problems for everybody involved. We've been having conversations about trying to incentivize development. We've done that before in past asbestos-related issues. We need to know where these lines are at, and I would suggest that the city council talk about and discuss whether it's a percentage or the full amount helping new development deal with this issue, and not just saying that we have all these empty lots where there's an old asbestos line and no development can occur. But in this case here, there's certainly been mistakes made on both sides, and I think the city needs to make good on that and resolve the issue and just move on and work more on how to address this issue when it comes up for future construction sites.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think there's a policy opportunity here, and I've already started to work with Jeff to create an inventory of all the properties where there is unused or abandoned utilities and easements. And so that's what we can do in the short term, so that when land use proposals or building permits come in, we can run every single development application through this inventory. At the same time, as we start to embark on long-range planning, I think this is also presenting an opportunity for us to, again, take a comprehensive approach to inventory and to determine where it's feasible for us to remove unused and abandoned, in this case, water pipe, which we're presuming is asbestos cement pipe or AC pipe. Now, but at the same time, it's not, Kevin, as you described, a hazardous waste site, because this is not inherently dangerous. In fact, most professionals will actually tell you that it's safer to keep it buried, perhaps with a little bit of encasement and the appropriate tank. It's when you remove it, as was the case here, that you're giving rise to a lot of potential danger and hazard. Yes, but the problem arises when we issue a building permit and nobody knows it's there, and then they discover it's there, and the city goes, we're not going to do anything about it. And 14 months later, we turn around and say, oh, it's your fault. Right, but Kevin, the reason we're saying that, the reason we're pointing fingers is because Mr. Novix absolutely unequivocally knew it was there. He knew about the pipe's existence before he bought the property. And we, yes, and things that we really should kind of keep out of public forums, but I'll go ahead and say it now. We've known about it for 14 months. The city's known about it for 14 months. The city council's known about it for 2 weeks. When I don't think the city staff has known that the pipe's been out on Earth for 14 months. What is part there that we knew that? Because I think part of the issue is, we truly don't know that this is asbestos pipe. Is that correct? We're assuming. That is flat. Okay, we're assuming it's asbestos pipe, which it probably is, because a truck and ship it off, the first ton is $200. The second ton is under $100. It's just a fee they impose. So, yes, this is workable. The problem is, I don't think we've been working with this homeowner for 14 months. And to say that we haven't known about it for 14 months, my email flat out says, are you asking whether the city knew that Mr. Novix was storing pipe on his property for 14 months or so? I didn't throw that number out. That came from another place. So we've known about this. We've known about it since the first time Mr. Novix shoveled it in it. And that is not my biggest fear. My biggest fear is he has neighbors. What's his neighbors gonna do? Yes, the word precedence was brought up. Well, what is our precedence? What are we gonna do for our constituents? What are we gonna do for the voting public? And I know I'm talking too much, so I'll just shut up for a few minutes.
Kevin,
The 14-month number was something that Mr. Novix told me when I interviewed him. He said, yeah, he told me on approximately what date they removed it from the ground. I learned that last week. We haven't known this entire time that it's been out of the ground. And the conversation he had with Carl was before Carl's departure, like two years ago.
I'm just saying, Justin, that I actually used to work in a landfill. I had to deal with asbestos. I had to be literally fitted for a special mask, and we had to be certified to be able to deal with the asbestos. We can't just send our public works crew out to wrap it in plastic and ship it off.
I agree.
Somebody certified. I mean, you're just basically opening a door for another liability because we're doing something illegal. We have to have somebody certified to do that.
Oh, I agree completely.
This is Larry. There's a lot of irony here. When we sold a property for, I don't remember what the number was, $1, $10, that had a building that contained asbestos on it. And the removal methodology was just to crush it and load it up into containers and ship it off. And that was done with a little bit of water going, but really not a fine mist or anything to minimize the dust and issues. And during that process, the new owner developer came to us and asked for additional concessions without providing us with anything more. And the city council decided to support that and encourage the development opportunity and the cleanup. And I don't understand why we're taking a totally different litigious tact on this when at our last council meeting, the discussion was to support the landowner and try and just get it resolved, which could have been done for much less money than has already been expended by staff and city attorneys. And so I'd like to turn it over to the mayor, the chair of the council, and just have each council member speak their thoughts on this, if I could, please.
Was that Lauren?
Yes.
That's fine, yes.
Can I just make a comment? This is Quinn Plant.
Thank you, Quinn.
Yeah, I just make a comment that I think that the building permit issue is a little bit of an unrelated issue. I mean, there was a building permit, it was issued, but that's really different than the city having an easement. And if you do want to build a property and you see there's an easement there, it's appropriate to find out if it's abandoned. And if you want to maybe get rid of the easement or remove whatever's in it, the appropriate tact is to come to the city. There's a formal process the city can go through to abandon the easement, and then it becomes yours. And what really needs to happen is you just need to build over it. And here, it seems like, at least from what I understand, is this guy just decided, well, I'm just going to dig this stuff out and stack it somewhere, and then try to have the city pay to have it removed. And so in some ways, he's just asking the city to pay for some of the cost of him to construct his house. It seems like it's kind of a problem. The city, for many, many good reasons, can't have people just going around digging up the city's easements and pulling things out of there. I mean, in this case, it was an abandoned pipe, but you never know what's going to be down there. So I think that's sort of the concern.
Well, it's certainly the responsibility of the city to know where their infrastructure is and to review those building from its design and understand location and elevations and predict these kind of problems of a foundation interfering with past infrastructure. But, you know, this was probably built in the 1940s, and certainly understand that the city doesn't know those exact elevations, and mistakes happen, we're all human. And this act of a litigious assault on a citizen just seems really overwhelmingly inappropriate.
Larry?
The only thing,
I'm in agreement with Lauren on that.
well, the only thing I was gonna suggest is we did receive a bid from Mr. Novak today regarding the cost of removing that asbestos cement pipe. And it was for Justin, I think it was for $2,000 plus sales tax.
Yeah, approximately, that's what it was. That was the bid that he got from what appeared to be someone that's licensed to perform the work.
This is Julie. My recommendation would be a 50-50 split. The city takes half, and he takes half, and we get it done.
I have spoken with Mr. Novik this afternoon, and he's a little angry. I'm not sure that he will accept that. He's on the line. He can comment. Craig, you're on the line? Yes, sir. So let me unmute myself. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Novik. Okay. Yeah. The problem I ran into was the asbestos pipe was actually only 2 feet deep, and my foundation had to go 4.5 feet deep. So, other than that, it wouldn't have worked in terms of owning this, I guess, this property. And no, I'm not trying to get the city to pay my stuff for me, because that's really not the kind of guy I am. If that's the guy I was, I would have been asking for that earlier. But I guess what led to the most of my discontent was the fact that it was just when I went to the city after the problem was discovered, and believe it or not, Justin, you say I knew that before I bought the land. I didn't know about that before I bought the land. I found out about it from my neighbor Dave next door after I purchased the land. So if we're going to be factual, I'd like to get my side of the facts out also. But thirdly, I mean, I think I've tried to build a nice house. I want to have a good relationship with everybody in the city, to be quite honest with you. In fact, I even supported your business, Justin, when you opened Winnell's Brewery. I joined your membership for a year because I want to see our city do better and people in the city do well, you know. But I guess the major turnoff point for me was the fact that I was basically blown off or ignored or told it was all my problem when I brought the attention to the city of Goldendale. And I didn't think that was really an appropriate way to deal with the situation. And, you know, I spent a lot of money out of my own pocket. Obviously, in permits, I was looking at what I paid for in permits today. I paid, and that's the cost of doing business. I understand that. And I understand that's the cost, but, you know, and I'm willing to go through the process of even abandoning this easement after this pipe is gone. We can go through that. I'm a level-headed, easy guy to work with, but I guess the only reason I wanted some help from the removal of the asbestos pipe is because I knew I needed to get a series of signatures throughout the construction loan process in order to complete my loan, so I didn't want to create waves or make problems, because the reality is I've been renting pretty dumpy houses in Goldendale for 4.5 years, and I just had to get on with my own life and build my own house. So that's kind of how it all came together, really. So.
This is Lauren. I appreciate you bringing the issue to us, Craig, because it will help us address it ahead of time and have a game plan, a policy in place, hopefully to promote development and construction on sites that otherwise couldn't be built on, especially when we have abandoned infrastructure that's only 2 feet deep. And I think that the city will obviously recoup its investment in that development through its taxes over time on that residential property. And so I guess at this point, I'd like to please hold on. I'd like to move that the city compensate Mr. Novik for his expenses to remove and dispose of the abandoned city water line in order to accommodate his city-reviewed and approved residential building project.
And before you vote on that, can you comment on our discussion about the gift?
Actually, we need a second, Justin, before we discuss it. So without a second, we can't discuss.
Do we have a second?
Thank you, Kevin.
So it's been moved and seconded that the city
Who
cover
seconded?
those costs.
Kevin.
Kevin?
Yes.
Are there any further questions or comments before we call for a vote?
Yes, I have a comment, which is, we discussed this with Quinn, and I was hoping Quinn could provide some insight over the concerns that we had about an arrangement like this.
Quinn?
Uh-oh.
Is
Quinn
Quinn?
here?
I guess Quinn's not there. Quinn, are you there?
I'm here, I apologize, I was just talking and realized I think Justin and I had just sort of been discussing about, as you're aware, municipalities can't give public funds for a private purpose, so just sort of keep that in mind.
Well, Lauren, was your motion to include the expense that I mentioned as the amount of money we're talking about for reimbursement? Is that what you're suggesting?
Whatever the cost was for the removal and then the disposal, so I don't know what that number is.
The removal from the ground of the pipe? Justin, I discussed this with you last week. This is Craig Dovis once again. I told you I don't want any problems, and I even told you, and I'll state the truth of our conversation, that I've already paid to have it removed, okay? And in terms of my private property, or for a private purpose, it's not really, I guess it's a private purpose because I want it off my property, but at the same time, it's still abandoned city property. It's not my property. It's not technically abandoned.
So Craig, you're just asking for the 2,000 plus the tax?
Yeah, if you guys get rid of it, I'll call it a square deal. I'm pretty easy to work with, so.
Okay, I just wanted to get the nature of the amount of money that we're talking about so I can,
What was the cost? Sorry, may I speak on my motion? What was the cost of removal? To get it out of the ground?
Grab the invoice, I have one in front of me here somewhere, so we'll see. It was right around $2,000 plus tax.
And then the cost to have it hauled off is?
That's everything. They'll take it to a bango and have it asbestos wrapped and all that good stuff, so.
Well, hold on, I want to slow down on that also. The reality is it only needs to be wrapped in single paper, loaded onto the back of a pickup truck, and taken down to the dump, and a $200 fine, fee paid.
It has to be handled by people who are licensed to handle it. That's the problem. They have to have the correct schooling and education through the state to be asbestos certified. That's the problem.
No, we're jumping through a few hoops that I don't think that we actually need to jump through. It's, the moment it was removed from the ground, it should have been covered in 6 mil paper, period. We are now starting on a totally different thing, that for 14 months, this stuff has been blowing in the breeze.
It's not blowing in the breeze because it's a solid pipe, so it's all intact.
Yes, I understand that. But it is no longer underground underneath 2.5 feet of compacted earth, which is kind of sort of a requirement for this pipe.
Kind of, yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, what I'm saying is, we don't necessarily have to. There's other ways around this. Teresa from the dump just wants it wrapped up and dropped off. That's it. You and your buddies
No,
can do
correct,
this.
but like.
You and your buddies can do this in an hour, and then.
Correct, but people who move the asbestos now, they need to be licensed by the state of Washington, so all I'm saying is, I look at it this way too, I guess we both benefited from the situation because I was able to build a house, and the city of Goldendale was able to increase their tax base by probably just a little bit under 10% of what was being previously taxed on the land. but it was actually less expensive for me to have it removed from the ground because my foundation had to go 4.5 feet deep. For me to raise my stem walls, I would have to spend probably another $9,000 to $11,000 in concrete to raise the house. So that's why I made the decision I made. So.
No, fair enough. But it brings up another question is for the entire city council. What about the other 3, 4, 5 miles of pipe? Everybody keeps calling this an easement. It's not an easement. We've buried.
Did the city dissolve their easement when they? I don't know if they dissolved their easement from the abandoned pipe. I haven't looked into that. So.
Yeah, I hear you, Kevin, but I feel like that if we can tackle and get a resolution on this one site, we can do the work on other future potential sites. We're not gonna maybe solve all that tonight. You know, it would have been nice with all the effort that's put into this if we had the title language and actually had the county's subplat for that neighborhood, but none of that information's been available. And then, so Kevin, are you okay with really addressing this one property site and continuing the discussion on the rest of the city at a future date?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, sir. I just want to note that on the gift of public funds doctrine, there's for the MRSC website, there's a couple of tests that are used to determine whether or not it's truly considered a gift of public funds. And the first test is whether or not the activity that is being funded is a fundamental purpose of government. And I would say that we have talked about supporting development in Goldendale to increase housing availability, and additionally, we're talking about public safety here. So I think we are serving two fundamental benefits or fundamental purposes of public government by using these funds to get this asbestos pipe situation resolved. And with that, I would call for the motion to take a vote on what I proposed.
So just by, this is Larry Bellamy. Laura, just by recollection and make sure I got the numbers right, and to go by what Craig has indicated, and that is that we would take the bid of $2,000 plus sales tax, and the city would pay the contractor to remove the asbestos pipe from his property. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, what I would propose is that we cover the cost of the removal since it interfered with the foundation, and that wasn't information that the city was able to provide after the building permit.
Why would you cover the cost for him to illegally remove the pipe from the ground?
Well,
That makes no sense to me. I think this is a disregard for like any city liability here or accountability to this individual.
just a minute,
I
Justin.
think you're willing to put like the public in danger this way and encourage people to remove pipe and expect the city to just cover the cost of their negligence.
Justin, just a minute. We need to get this back to the mayor, and we need to let's get back to where we are in the process. And that is, I believe that there was a motion made by Lauren and seconded by, who seconded it?
Kevin, I think.
Did Kevin second that motion, Lauren?
Yes.
Yeah, and in the future, I'd like to not be interrupted by staff.
Granted. I just wanted to make sure we were at the right spot. So are we still under discussion? And with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
As I understand, we have,
We're still under discussion. We shouldn't be paying for the removal, but we should be paying for the cleanup.
I would think the cleanup would include removal, so we might be able to put it all in one category.
I think to sum everything up, the reality is we issued a building permit on an easement that turned out to have solid waste underneath it. I don't think that's acceptable, and I know Larry's gonna fix this, I know Justin's gonna fix it, I've seen what they've written, I've seen their opinion on this, but for right now, We got caught with our pants down.
Well, what I'm saying, Kevin, is that if he would have came to the council when that issue arrived and said he needed to go down 4.5 feet, and our abandoned pipe was in the way and it's probably asbestos, I would have agreed with the fact that, yeah, we need to remove it because it's our pipe that's in the way, and it is asbestos and we're not using it anyway. But he chose to remove it upon himself without getting permission at all.
Well, based on what I'm reading from the emails, he talked with city PUD, and they said, we're not gonna do anything about it. So it wasn't as though he just.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that he spoke with Carl, but he should have came to the council with that issue and brought that whole issue to the council and said, hey, I need this out of the ground. And does that make sense?
It
No.
does.
Yeah.
I hear you, Shannon, but it's hard, I think, for folks to know when they have to go to council or the mayor, when, depending on the input they get from staff. And, you're in construction, you're trying to get a project done, you've been told there's an abandoned pipeline there that is no longer used. Contractors go on, you're paying money for everybody. Mistakes were made on all sides. I've heard suggestions that maybe we just pay for the removal, suggestions that we pay 50-50. I suggested we cover everything. I think we just need to get to a resolution here for the landowner and for council so that we can work on resolving this for future issues. And so I'd accept a friendly amendment to just pay for the removal and not for the removal from the site to the final disposal site and not the actual excavation that occurred some time ago. And I would suggest that Mr. Novix, if he's willing to, just arrange to have that done and provide invoice to the city to be reimbursed. But I would really like to hear all the other councilors' input on this, and I'd like to see us get to a unanimous solution if we can. This is violence. So we would have to obviously pick up $200 fee at the landfill. Is that included in on the 2,000, or that would be additional $200?
I'd have to refer that to Craig. This is Larry Bellamy. I'd have to refer that question to Craig.
Yeah, hi Larry, I spoke with the contractor yesterday morning and said that would include everything, so.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's why I wanted it on paper so I could give you guys a copy of it before I went over it with you, and I wanted to make sure his numbers were 100% accurate, so there's
Okay.
no surprises.
Good,
Thank you.
good approach too, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, you're back on.
Okay, we've got a motion to cover the cost of removal or disposal of the pipe that is suspected of having asbestos in it. The city will cover that as a cost of operation of the city's responsibilities under Public Works. I don't see it as gifting. I think we can probably justify everything about this because I know, at least on my part, and I'm not involved in that deep a part of the city, but until Mr. Novak mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, I had no idea something like that could have occurred without everybody knowing about it. It's just, it's a fairly big city and a lot of things are done with the best of intentions. And I don't think we should be penalizing people for doing a good job, doing what they could, and quite frankly, practically solving the whole problem before we even discovered it.
Okay, so Mayor, I think there was a motion and a second, and then Lauren did an amendment, but we need to make sure we get a second to accept the amendment.
I
Okay.
second the amendment.
Is that Julie?
Julie,
Yeah, Julie will second the amendment of paying for the removal.
Okay.
Okay, so now I ask for more discussion.
is there more discussion? And Lauren, I need, if you can give it to me, the wording for your first amendment and the first proposal and then the amendment, so that we have it accurately in the record.
I have it on my
Yes, sir,
phone.
would you like that now?
If you've got it,
Yes. The first motion was I moved that the city compensate Mr. Novix for his expenses to remove and dispose of the abandoned city water line in order to accommodate his city reviewed and approved residential building project. And then the amendment that we made as council was to just cover the cost of the removal of the pipe on site now. Removal and disposal of the pipe on site now.
Thank you, Lauren. This is Larry.
You're welcome, Mark.
Okay, so you know you're on a first and a second. Any more discussion?
do we need more discussion? We have a first, an agenda, and we have an endorsement. When we also have a second to the motion, is there further discussion before we call for a vote? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed by the same sign? The motion passes unanimously.
And Kevin, you abstained?
No.
No, the abstention is for the fire street because it's attached to my property. It's a different issue.
Okay.
This is Lauren. I just want to thank everyone involved for wrestling through a difficult issue and getting a resolution in place. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lauren. Glad that's off the table.
Yeah, this is Mr. Novik. I wanted to thank you guys too for your help. So I just want to say thank you for that. I appreciate it, and I'm glad we're able to get this resolved. So
Same here, very much so.
You guys have a good-
You have terrific patience with
Okay, thank
a
you.
very complicated thing. Thank you. What now?
You bet.
Resolution.
The next item on the agenda is the resolution. This resolution concerns the 2021 revenue sources, and Larry will explain that and call for.
Actually, Mike did a great job already explaining it. It's Resolution 713, and it would be for taxes for 2021 at 1% of the previous year's levy amount, which equals $9,355.54, and we would recommend its approval.
Do we have a motion to approve?
We need a second.
Did you?
Shannon.
This is Shannon. I'll second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept the 1% tax increase for the city of Goldendale for the year 2021. Is there any further discussion or any further comments or questions? Otherwise, we'll call for a vote. All in-
I'm sorry, Mayor. I know I'm a pain in the ass tonight, but only one thing. This is not a lot of money per household. It's not a big deal. I do agree with it, but there's nothing in the write-up says this is what it's actually going to. I would kind of like to see a little more communication going back and forth, and then I digress. And please continue on with your conversation.
Call for a vote.
I'd like to call for a vote, and we'll give you those details, Kevin, once we have everything in place. It's a normal property tax increase of 1%, the maximum the state allows any community. I'm calling for a vote. Do we have, how many are approve, agree to the agenda, this has been a tough night.
Yes, sir.
Approves the resolution number 7.
Do you approve the resolution number
713.
703,
713.
713 regarding a 1% increase in city tax? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Okay.
This is Lauren. I guess I have a suppose I just would like to know if this is just covering standard increase cost or where the funds are going to be applied, as Kevin asked. Sorry.
Right now, they go to the general fund, which supports the law enforcement, fire, general finance and accounting administration, everything related to the judicial system, the mayor's costs and council costs, things like that. So just the normal everyday increases that would apply to those particular services that the city provides.
No new additional services, really just kind of covering a general expected operating increase in operating costs.
Exactly.
Correct.
But it's not anything
I don't know the
extra.
process on this, but if I can change my vote to support it, I will do that.
Okay, let's call for votes in favor of the tax increase.
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Okay,
If not, it passes, and we appreciate the efforts made to go through these types of points. Thank you. The next item is a report of officers and the city administrator. We'll begin with Larry, who's probably already exhausted, but he'll do a great job. Larry?
I don't have that much, but I just wanted to again remind the budget committee that we're meeting at 6 o'clock. That's 6 o'clock, so last time we had a little bit of confusion about whether or not it started at 7, but I think their desire is to have it start at 6. And it's Monday on the 11th or on November 23rd. That's the budget committee. Tomorrow night, we're actually going to have an airport committee meeting. It starts at 7, however, and it's on Tuesday, the 17th of November. And we will have some exciting discussions. We'll be talking about the fuel, the 90% plans and specifications for the fuel system, and some information regarding the civil work to be done around the site to support that fuel system. So I think there are some new members on that committee. Do you remember who they are? I know Mylan's on the committee, and I think Kevin, you're
Kevin's
on, and there was one other one.
Shannon's on.
And
Yes,
Shannon's on.
Shannon was the
Okay.
original member.
All right, so that, we will be announcing that, or that particular meeting is going to go through a website that supports group meetings like this remotely, but it's through the consultant's website, and it's called Join Me. It's not a Zoom meeting, so you make sure you look at your information on how to connect in, and he'll be hosting the meeting. It's on a Join Me, and it should be on your email that we've sent earlier.
And the relevant documents for the airport discussion are in that same email as attachments.
And I'll be sending out an agenda tomorrow, as well as some additional plan specifications for the civil work that needs to be done. So be watching for that as well. And then I did want to mention, everybody's probably heard that the governor has established a new 4-week statewide restrictions. So make sure that you check those out, and to the extent possible, abide by those. And if there's any questions, we can point you to the right guidelines that are put out by the governor in relationship to the COVID-19 4-week statewide restrictions. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Larry. We'll now hear from council members, and I'll just kind of go through the roll. If you have something you want to bring up, we'll begin with Andy.
Yes, Mayor, I have a question. I'm not sure who to direct this to. I've heard that to the rumor of Goldendale about the pound. Are we still going to be doing that with Dogs of the Gorge?
No.
We discussed that with Dogs of the Gorge and indicated that we had some concerns about the ability of the shelter to meet the requirements it needs to meet with regard to the Department of Health. And we came out of that meeting and with the recommendation that we'll send to the Budget Committee and then to the council, recommending that we not reapprove that contract.
So has there been issues with them? I guess I'm kind of taken back.
Actually, it's more.
Something that has been working.
It actually is it's more because the facility itself has just run its course. And it never was intended to be an animal shelter. We've really tried hard to make it happen, but the cost to meet all the required standards for an animal shelter, we felt like it was just going to be too much. So I was going to go over those costs and those figures with you.
I feel that we're making the wrong decision on that, and I feel that it should be in their hands, but I'll just leave that for the Budget Committee and we'll discuss it more.
Okay, so yes, on the 23rd.
Okay, Andy, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just stated that I'm in disagreement with that, and I feel that the board should continue that. I think they've done a great job, and I think it's the building, we've had chances to fix things, and I feel that the city has failed not to fix the building, but we can discuss that more in the Budget Committee.
We may have the Budget Committee have a tour of the dog pound at the same time. Next, Councilmember Mylan.
Yes, Mayor. I assume we're going to have a good meeting, Ronald Airport meeting, and still working on the reader board sign. Again, I want to thank the PUD with all the work they've done so far. We had a few little problems with the reader board sign itself, but hopefully we get it resolved very shortly. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, Mylan. Shannon?
I think that Justin should host all these meetings, because for once I can finally hear everybody.
Sorry.
I'm not sure Justin's smiling right now, but
Wasn't that him laughing?
Lauren?
I just want to thank everyone for getting through a difficult meeting, both the technical difficulties up front and then the challenging discussion. And I'm kind of curious to hear more about the animal structures and how that will impact city operations for animal control in the future. So thank you all.
Good, thanks. Thanks, Lauren. Julie?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to thank everybody. I think we had a really good discussion tonight. Appreciate everybody speaking up on that important issue. Would also like to extend my sympathy to Councilmember Ontiveros on the passing of his father.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We all agree, and thank you, Julie. Kevin?
I know once again I was a pain in the butt tonight, and I do apologize, and I'm not going to stop yet. I am concerned that we had a hunting issue in town, and I don't know all the details. I'm only hearing rumors, but I guess somebody killed a deer with a long rifle in town, and I'm wondering if we should address that at some point in time.
The chief is here, he has some explanation.
The information I received that there was a citizen in town that dispatched a deer under hunting purposes with a long rifle. Fishing gang came in and assisted and took over the case for us. The individual's rifle was seized and he was cited for reckless endangerment because of the direction of the way the rifle was pointed when the deer was dispatched. So Fish and Game has taken over, and the individuals have been charged criminally.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else, Kevin?
Well, I'm just wondering if we should make a regulation where we say, you don't get to shoot a gun in town.
That's already a regulation, it's there.
Okay, all right.
Okay. We'll get you a copy of those regs too. They're on the website.
Thanks, Mayor, for making fun of me.
No, I'm not making fun of you. I want you to have the information.
Okay.
Under remarks by the mayor, I want to thank all of you for what has been particularly because it's remote, a discussion that's very, very hard to keep up with, and very often people are talked over and subjects are switched, but you got through that and you got to good resolutions and good results. I think it's worth the effort, every bit of it. Now, what I wanted to address was the governor's proclamation that gives us another 4 weeks of restrictions on just about everything. I think you have received copies of his notice of statewide restrictions for 4 weeks. This will end on December 14th, if it's not extended. But when I read it, I was really disheartened. Our county and our city have worked very, very hard to do as good a job as we could. I think probably more of the higher numbers of cases are in the larger cities. We're grouped in with all the other rural counties in something that we aren't necessarily experiencing and hopefully will not ever experience. But we need to take heart. I think we're getting closer to the end of this. I know the governor's very concerned that as many people as possible are kept safe in this process. Keep in mind, if any of us come down with COVID, we're endangering everyone around us. So let's work hard to continue on. I know it's disheartening that we had this additional restrictions, but I think it's something very, very doable for our city and for our council. Thank you. We'll go now to public comment. Is there anyone on the line for public comment? If so, give us your name and address.
And limit it to 3 minutes.
And please limit it to 3 minutes.
Mayor, this is Roger Nichols at 1617 Oregon Street in the Dalles. And my question has to do with the airport committee meeting. Is that login information available to the general public? Or is it just sent out emails to the members of the council?
It was sent out as an email to the members of the committee and the council members, and I thought it included you and Nancy as well. I will double check it if you have not received it.
I've not seen it, but then I get a ton of emails, so I'll double check, and if you double check, we'll probably be there. So thank you.
Okay.
Real good.
Anyway, that was my intention, was to notify you.
Yep, I assumed that, but wanted to double check.
Okay.
Thank you, Roger. Any other public comments or questions? If not,
Yeah,
yes.
this is Larry Hocker. I have one question, and I apologize. I'm on a phone here, so I don't know if I got all the conversation about that easement. Did I hear? What did I hear? What should I have heard about? Did the gentleman that owned that property, did he know about that water line easement or not?
I don't. The thing that he may have known about it, but I don't know that we knew the extent of the fact that it was a hazardous material. I know that it says water line on his subdivision map, but it doesn't really say.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It says water line at 20-foot right away.
This is Johnson.
I'm just concerned that that's gonna open it up for the other 9 people that are in that short class that have that line running across, and I've got a couple of sewer lines and sidewalks on my property I guess I'd like the city to take care of too.
You've opened a can.
Yeah, I mean, I share your concern, Mr. Hocker.
And I plan on living here the rest of my life, and I'm really concerned that you just did. So, anyway, I'll be quiet.
Appreciate your comment. Are there further public comments?
This is Shannon, can I say something?
Certainly.
I think it's became more of a safety issue at this time as far as towards the public. That's why we're gonna work
this is Lauren. I just want to weigh in as well. You know, this is something that came up after the fact. The city didn't know the location, the depth. The landowner didn't have that information. Contractor didn't have that information. Typically in engineering, pipes buried at least 3 feet deep, if not deeper. It's just an unfortunate situation where there were mistakes made on all sides, and I don't see this as setting a precedent. I see it as solving a problem that came up, as problems often do in construction, and we will make the effort to have a good plan and policy in place going forward.
Great comment, Lauren, thank you. Any other comments or questions, or any public comments? If not, we have a motion to close the meeting.
I so motion.
Shannon, second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn City Council meeting for November 16, 2020. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed it will probably be shot. Good night.